Hello, everyone, and welcome to Common Knowledge's Pauper set review for Secrets of Strixhaven, the newest Magic the Gathering set coming out, well, just right about now. I'm excited for this one because it's a Universes Within set, and, those are fewer and farther between these days, but also I'm excited because I am not a Strixhaven guy. I wasn't around when when I was taking my Magic break when Strixhaven was first revealed, the original Strixhaven set. And so it's not a plane that I am as familiar with, but I can obviously see the inspiration, and I'm not a huge fan of the inspiration if you catch my drift. But it's Universes Within, and I'm sure there are cool cards. I've been seeing some of the spoilers, but I have not seen all the cards, and I'm excited to jump into that today. Just a couple things. One, this is more of like a buyer's guide, kinda. This is more for me than it is for you, honestly. I'm happy to have you come and watch, but this is for me to take notes on my own piece of paper to go, oh, you need to buy a couple copies of those. And, maybe you'd be interested in some of my thoughts about what cards might be good in Pauper. And I guess if there's like a commander case for some of them, or even, I guess, a limited case. I will be going to pre-release. Pre-release has not happened as of the recording of this video. But, I'll throw some ideas when I think of them. But we're going to go through all of the commons, which this says 91. I don't think there are actually 91, but that's also counting basic lands. I just chose the common cards from Secrets of Strixhaven. But we will also be going through the special guests and mystical archive cards that are legal in Pauper. So we'll get to talk about Archaeomancer. That'll be exciting. I'm also going to be doing my ratings, which I usually do these kinds of ratings on my normal playlist of rating Pauper cards, and that's a lot of fun. It's kind of a fun thing to do. I would not take these too seriously. I especially would not take these too seriously before these cards are even in people's hands, because I don't know, we might figure out something like there's an infinite combo that you can do with guac and marshmallow pizza. Although I will say, I thought guac and marshmallow pizza was going to be a good card when I first saw it in TMNT. So I don't know. Maybe we'll hit on something here. But I just like going down these. I have these listed by color because I like just seeing how the colors interact with each other. And that's just more helpful to me. But this is a set that uses enemy color pairs. So think about how the enemy color pairs work together, like red and white or white and black or green and blue, that kind of thing. But let's get into it. How about that? Johnny's response is 4 and a white for an instant. The spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a tapped creature. Destroy target creature. We've gotten plenty of these in the past. I can't remember the names of them, but we have quite a few of them now. I think there was one in Duskmourn. The best one of these was in Aetherdrift, Ride's End. Yeah, Ride's End. Because it exiles one, which is huge, and it exiles a creature or a vehicle. So that's the one that gets used in Pauper, and even then, it doesn't get used all that much. So Johnny's response, even though I love the art, and I think it's pretty darn cool, it's probably not something that's going to see much of an impact in Pauper. Let's go ahead and give this something like a 2.6. It is a removal spell. It can be cheapened. That's nice. You can do all sorts of things with that, but generally... I will say for I guess the limited environment, there are schools. I guess it's the Prismari school, the red and blue one, that wants you to cast instants and sorceries that are 5 mana or more. This is white, so certainly you're not getting the is-itness of the Prismari in that. But this is a 5 mana spell that can be cost reduced to 2, and you still get all the benefits of casting a 5 mana spell, even if you only paid 2 mana for it. So that's cool. Something to consider in a limited environment if you go into like a Jeskai 3-color thing, or even more colors when you're playing limited. Ascendant Dust Speaker is 4 and a white for a 3/4 Orc Cleric with flying. When this creature enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Seems fine. Seems a little slow. The 1/1 counter can only go on another creature you control, so it can't go on this one. You can never have a 4/5 flyer for 5. That's kind of a bummer. But I mean, I don't think the +1/+1 counter matters that too terribly much here. Outside of this just being a relatively underwhelming flying creature, the most interesting part here is the exiling a card out of a graveyard each combat, but having to wait for a combat to do that. And it's beginning of combat on your turn, not each combat. It's each of your combats. So it's a little slow when it comes to removing stuff. You want to be able to do that at instant speed whenever you want to, a Relic of Progenitus kind of thing. And also Relic of Progenitus costs 1 to get on the board, and this guy costs 5. Now, you're also getting a 3/4 flyer and then another 1/1 counter, but I think this is pretty underwhelming. I will give it a 2.1, I think. Dig Site Inventory is a single white mana for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains vigilance until end of turn, and it has flashback also for a single white mana. Okay, is this playable in mono white heroic? You get some card advantage here. It targets one of your own creatures twice. The vigilance is kind of nice. The +1/+1 counter is obviously nice. I don't know enough about mono white heroic to know if this really breaks through. I know there is a card in mono white heroic that is pretty darn similar to this, but maybe it's at instant speed and maybe it doesn't give vigilance. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Yeah, that's tough. I think this will be a good card. It's really just whether mono white heroic has the spaces for it. Also, sorry, it seems like my neighbor's doing some housework now, or yard work, housework, construction of some sort. I think Dig Site Inventory is a pretty good card. I guess I'm going to hedge my bets because, again, I don't know if this is better or worse or a side grade of the mono white heroic cards that we know will get used in that deck. So I'll hedge a little bit, and I'll say this is something like a 5.8, I think. But it is pretty cool. Any card that can give you card advantage like this, it doesn't draw you a card, but it's a spell. It's a single card that you play twice. It's 2 spells in 1 spell. That's really good. That's card advantage that people sometimes forget, and it's an important thing. I think this is a pretty solid card. Do I need to buy copies of it? Probably not. I think right now, if you're going in a mono white deck, you're going the white weenie stuff with Leonardo, Big Brother, and less on mono white heroic. I already have a Bogles deck for myself anyway, so I'm probably not as interested in going into mono white heroic. But if you have a deck of that kind of flavor, and this doesn't even have to be mono white heroic, it could be some Boros kind of stuff, or anything that splashes white or uses white primarily and splashes another color. I think this card potentially could do some work in Pauper. You might want to take a look at your decks and keep an eye on it, because it seems all right to me. Eager Glyph Mage is 3 and a white for a 3/3 cat cleric. When this creature enters, you create a 1/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying. So 4 mana for 4/4 of stats. One of those is on a flyer, and the rest is on this guy. It's all right. It being... If this was the same mana cost, but you got a 2/2 and it made a 2/2 flyer along with it, then maybe we could start talking about some like ephemerate effects. I don't think this is worthy enough of ephemerating to just get a one little flyer. In fact, aren't there isn't there like a Modern Horizons 1 or Modern Horizons 2 evoke guy that gives you like 2 birds or something, or 2 spirits with flying when it leaves the battlefield? So that's a little bit more of an ephemerate target than something like this. It's okay, but where are you playing it? You have to play it in some kind of blinky deck to get the value out of it. But those decks, I don't I just don't think they need a card like this. I think you have enough other targets, and a lot of those mono white decks, like we talked about, are going, white weenie going wide or mono white heroic, and this kind of doesn't really work for either of them. I mean, I guess it helps you go wide, but you can do better than that. Elite Interceptor is a single white mana for a 1/2 human wizard, and this creature enters prepared. This is our first time talking about prepared. While it's prepared, you may cast a copy of its spell. Doing so unprepares it. So this is a card that is similar to an adventure, if you remember those from Eldraine, and I guess in a way somewhat similar to Omens from Dragons of Tarkir, or Tarkir Dragonstorm rather. But this one almost kind of works like a reverse adventure, because adventures is you could play the spell and then the creature goes into exile and you could play the creature later. I guess it didn't have to be a creature. But you play the permanent part later. Yeah, because there's like the land ones too from Final Fantasy. So you'd play the permanent later after casting the spell. So that would be kind of card advantage. This one is, hey, you play the creature first, and then you have to get it prepared. And a lot of these will enter prepared, but some will require you to jump through some kind of hoop before you can be prepared. And then once this thing is prepared, once it has that marker on it, then you can cash that marker in to cast the spell part that's attached here. So you get the creature first and then the spell. And sometimes you get the spell multiple times depending on how the preparedness works. So in this one, so you get just a 1/2 for 1. So you already getting a Thraben Inspector here, Novice Inspector, without the clue token, but you're getting this thing instead, and that thing is Rejoinder, which is 1 and a white for a sorcery. You may tap or untap target creature, and you draw a card. That is so incredibly close to a Thraben Inspector or a Novice Inspector, because it also draws you a card, and it gets a little bit more than just drawing you a card from that. With a Thraben Inspector or a Novice Inspector, you're getting the clue token, and this one, you're just getting a spell that straight up draws you a card, and it also taps or untaps a target creature. Now, it does its sorcery speed, and you can crack clues at instant speed, and this thing has to stay on the table to be able to continue doing its prepared spells, whereas your Thraben Inspector could die and your clue token still stays on the battlefield. You can blink and bounce your inspectors and keep the clues. This guy, you have to, or girl rather, lady, you'd have to, I guess you are still blinking or bouncing it so you can play it and it's prepared again, but it has to stay on the board to be able to do its spell. So there is, I think this not technically, I think this ends up being worse than a Thraben Inspector or a Novice Inspector. But I think you will probably find some times, maybe not a ton, but you will probably find some times where you will want to play this card instead of either of those two cards. Also, clue tokens are artifacts. So if you're doing, Orzhov Blade likes to be able to get affinity for artifacts cards out there, like Refurbished Familiar. And this card does nothing for that. But sometimes I think you're going to like having the tap or untap ability here. This is cool. This is a cool card. I like this. And I like that it's making me think about different ways of playing pretty similar cards. I'm going to give this thing I think I'm going to give this thing like a 6.6. That's actually pretty darn high for our purposes here. I guess I didn't really talk about the scale. It will be in the description, but the scale is like 5 is Pauper playable. That's like the floor of, this is like a card that would see play in Pauper. And then as you go up, it's, how playable is it? When you get to something like 8s, 9s, and even 10, we've never given a 10 before, but if you get up in that era, then it's okay. These are like the best of the best staples. I think Brainstorm I gave a 9.5. We just had like the bridges, the artifact bridges, and I gave the bridges a pretty mid-high 9 as well. So take that idea. But then anything under a 5 is kind of, I'd say 4 is like, oh, maybe it gets niche play, or maybe there's something that not a lot of people are seeing. And then kind of anything under that is, these aren't really Pauper cards, but they're interesting, and let's talk about them. And then anything like this, like a 2 or below, I would say is just actively kind of a bad card. So that's generally where the scale goes. Again, it's in the description if you want to see a more detailed version of it. I give some examples, but that's kind of what we're doing here. So yeah, this what did I give this? Like a 6.6, 6 point something. I like it. I'm gonna write it down too. I need to grab myself 4 copies, if for no other reason, just to have them. But yeah, I had not seen this card before, and I like it. Pretty neat. Let's also write down 4X, so I remember that. Next is Honorbound Page. It's 3 and a white for a 3/3 cat cleric with first strike, and it enters prepared. It comes with this sorcery, Forum's Favor, which is a single white mana, and target creature gets +1/+0 and gains flying until end of turn. I think this is worse. I think it's pretty clear that this is worse than the elite that we just saw, and most of it is the mana cost. But you're getting a 3/3 first striker, and that's not terrible for 4 mana. And then the prepared ability here, or prepared spell, targets any creature, so it could target him. So that could just be, it's just for a turn, but a turn where you get a 4/3 first strike flying guy, that's pretty good. Now it is at sorcery speed, so you don't get to do any funky combat trick things with it. But even so, I think that's a neat little limited ability. I think it's just a little priced out of Pauper. Again, somebody could make an argument, oh, this could be mono white heroic, and maybe you blink it, and now you can keep using that spell. I guess so. I guess you could. But I think you can spend your mana a little bit more efficiently than this. Still, kind of neat. I'm probably going to give this something in like the 3.3 range. Damn, I didn't just do that because of its power and toughness. I promise. I think this is just a 3.3. Interjection is a single white mana for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains first strike until end of turn. Pretty okay combat trick. We've seen white have spells like this before. I don't know if we've had this exact kind of text. +2/+2 and first strike. Usually you don't get the toughness boost when you give a guy first strike, because the first strike should handle it most of the time. So it's interesting that this one is giving a toughness boost. I guess that's pretty good if you're playing any of those toughness matters kinds of decks. Because then this would still boost the toughness and give you the first strike. Secrets of Strixhaven is not that set. If the spoilers I have seen so far have told me anything, so I really do wonder why they gave this the +2 toughness along with it, because this just kind of seems like a, what is it, guided strike? Is there a better way of doing this? Yeah, let's go to this. Let's go to guided strike. So yeah, that's +1/+0 and first strike, and you draw a card. Yeah, not exactly the same, but I think this is solid. I think this is a solid combat trick. Solid combat tricks don't really cut the mustard in Pauper these days, but I think this is a pretty solid one, and I think this will be a really good limited card just to blow out an opponent who's not expecting the combat math to go that way. Especially when you give something first strike like this, that can really turn the tables. I like combat tricks in limited. I'll give this thing a. I'm gonna give it a 3.8. I think it's cool. Owlin Historian is 2 and a white for a 2/3 bird cleric with flying. When this creature enters, you surveil 1. I'm going to assume you know what surveilling is at this point. And whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It's kind of a Lorehold thing, right? Lorehold, the red and white, the Boros color. house. They're all about cards leaving your graveyard or cards leaving a graveyard. I mean, this one specifically cares about your graveyard, but it's fine, I guess. 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer is kind of whatever. You know, we have Core Skyfisher, which does that for 2 mana, and I guess technically it has a downside, which is the having to bounce a permanent, but that is often used as upside in Pauper in the decks that it's played in. So I think this is a little bit outclassed. The Surveil's okay. It's fine to have a little card selection, potentially even card advantage, depending on the deck that you're building. And then, yeah, you get a card in your yard. You could get a card in your yard with the Surveil, which allows you to get a card out of your yard and get the +1/+1 until end of turn on this guy. But it's just a little too slow and a little too normal and a little too weak, honestly. So I think this is probably nothing more than like 2.2 range. It's not all that impressive. Rapier Wit is 1 and a white for an instant. Tap target creature. If it's your turn, put a stun counter on it and you draw a card. That's just some clean magic right there. That is pretty clean. Not a ton of proliferate in white, if I remember right. So these stun counters won't probably do a whole lot. I mean, I guess if you're in Azorius and you've got more proliferating ways that way in a Pauper deck, maybe you can proliferate a bunch of stun counters and this just becomes a nice way of drawing a card and keeping a creature at bay for a very long time. I like that you can still use it on your opponent's turn, but they're just giving you more incentive to use it on your turn. And that's not too bad. The card draw is the best part, though, right? It's fine. It's fine. I'll give this thing like a 2.5. I think it's a pretty normal, regular Magic card. And again, I think this will also be really good in Limited. Rehearsed Debater, 2 and a white for a 3/3 Jin Bard with Vigilance, and it's also got Reparate. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That is the Silver Quill ability or mechanic, is this Reparate. So you want to be casting spells that target creatures, your creatures or your opponent's creatures, and that's, I think that's interesting design space to care about both of those things. This card is kind of whatever, though. It's got like a form of prowess on it in a way, and it's a little bit more limited than prowess. But I don't know, just a 3/3 vigilance for 3. That's actually probably really good and limited. It's pretty tough, especially if you're able to. It's got like a combat trick on its body. So whenever you're playing, if you play a combat trick on this guy or on any guy, really, you can really blow somebody out. So that's interesting. But I think, again, this card's similar to other cards we've seen. A little too slow, a little too normal. And I don't think it'll do anything outside of Limited. But probably pretty cool in Limited. Let's go ahead and give this guy a 2.7. That seems high. Let's go with a 2.4. Yeah, that sounds better. Shattered Acolyte is 1 and a white for a 2/2 dwarf warlock with lifelink. You can pay 1 and sack this creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Okay. More lifelinkers. So you always gotta, when you see a lifelinker, especially if it's in white, you gotta consider a Gates deck. Like, does this go in Cog Gates? Is this better than Sacred Cat? Probably not. Sacred Cat's a 1/1 with lifelink, and it has a way to get it back from the graveyard as another 1/1 with lifelink. That's pretty good value. And then the 2 mana one that we use these days is Outlaw Medic, which that's a 1/3 and with lifelink, and when it dies, you draw a card. So that kind of card advantage, if your opponent does try to deal with it, is really nice. Now this guy, he does have something going for him. He is artifact and enchantment hate. That is an instant speed. That's all right. You know, does this guy go in the sideboard of your Cog Gates decks? I can't imagine that he would. I think you probably just have other stuff you'd rather put in your sideboard, but I do like the fact that he has some extra utility that way. Kind of neat. I don't hate him at all. I'm going to give this guy I think I'm going to give him like a 4.1. I think somebody could find a niche for him. Might even be higher than that, but that's what I'm going to give him. Stone Docent is our last white card, apparently. It's 1 and a white for a 3/1 Spirit Chimera, and for a single white mana, you can exile this card from your graveyard. You gain 2 life, you surveil 1, but you can only activate it as a sorcery. That's too bad. That's too bad. I was almost kind of liking it. 3/1 for 2 mana, so this thing trades with a bunch of stuff or forces an opponent to block it and probably trade when they don't want to. Being able to have that exile out of your graveyard, get a little life gain. So if you're playing against a red deck, imagine, you can use this to block and kill one of their guys who's attacking in, and then you've traded with that guy because they're red. All their guys are tiny. But now you can exile this guy from your graveyard and gain a couple life, and you're negating even more damage in a way. And I think that's pretty cool. And the Surveil's not bad either. I don't mind a Surveil, especially just for 1 mana. So, not too bad. But man, it'd be really good if you could do this at instant speed instead of sorcery speed. Because now at sorcery speed, your opponent, 1, they get a chance to respond. 2, you're only going to do it on your turn, so your opponent has plenty of time to exile your graveyard on their turn or whenever it's useful to them. Usually they're going to be able to do that at instant speed, and you won't be able to respond to that. So that's kind of the bummer about that. If this was at instant speed, I think we could have a conversation about it, but probably still wouldn't really cut it, but it certainly doesn't cut it now. Let's go with I'm going to go with just a straight 3 on that one. So really only 1 white card I was excited about. That's interesting. White's usually my favorite color. So, interesting. Banishing Betrayal is a 1 and a blue for an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and you surveil 1. That is some normal-ass magic right there. I don't mind this. It's easier to cast than a boomerang. Boomerang can target lands, though. That is pretty cool, though, when you can target lands and get some real neat tempo with boomerang. We don't play boomerang much, if at all. I had a copy of boomerang in a sideboard of Mono Blue Fairies and then ended up taking it out. But I think boomerang's a really cool card. This, though, for trading the ability to target lands like boomerang can, you get an easier to cast thing, and you get an extra surveil off it. That's not bad. That's really not bad. I have to wonder if we already have a card that is like this or better in Pauper. I'm not 100% sure that we do. Especially not one that bounces any non-land permanent. We have plenty of things, unsummon effects, that bounce just creatures, but any non-land permanent. I don't know. Kind of dig it. I'm going to give this thing a 4.7, I think. I think that's like right on the cusp, if not playable. I don't think I necessarily need it. It also, just got to point this out here, it also doesn't say your opponents. You could target your own stuff with this. So this is potentially a protection spell. That's why I really like a lot of blue spells. Like, you can use them offensively or defensively. And this is one of those that somebody's targeting your guy with a cast down. You play this, you bounce that guy back to your hand, surveil 1. You can do that with enchantments. That's a thing. If you wanna bounce back enchantments like a Hopeless Nightmare, that's a cool thing you can do. Tithing Blade, certainly. Yeah, there's Dimir kind of Tithing Blade stuff, but blue also has ways of blinking artifacts. Not so much blinking enchantments though. So maybe that Hopeless Nightmare line is an interesting one with this. I dig it. I really do. I don't think I need copies myself, But this is gonna be what? This is gonna be like 10 cents. Yeah, sure. I'll buy 4 copies of this just to have it. Banishing Betrayal. Cool. Chase Inspiration is a single blue mana for an instant. Target creature you control gets +0/+3 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Yeah, okay. Kind of a shore up. Isn't that basically what shore up is? That's +1/+1 and hexproof and untap it. Whoa, that's shore up's pretty good. Shore up's pretty good. I think shore up's better than this. Yeah, it gives you a lot of toughness. So I guess this is a way of it. But if it already has hexproof, then you're gonna dodge the lightning bolts anyway. So this is really just for blocking in combat or living in combat. And I think I'd just rather shore up at that point. Being able to untap it is a much scarier combat trick than this is. Yeah, this one's a bit of a bummer to me. I'm gonna give this thing a. I mean, I'm still gonna give it like a 2.5. It's a decent protection spell, and that's nice, but it's not gonna get anything more than that. Where I think shore up, if I saw shore up right now, which I just did, I'd give shore up like into the 4s. Like that's just the value that you can get with a single blue mana, and this single blue mana I don't think gets you nearly as much. Deluge Virtuoso is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 human wizard. When this creature enters, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. I like that so far. It's also got Opus. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, this creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. All right. So that is, again, a more limited version of Prowess, because Prowess is just non-creature spells. This has to be instants or sorceries. But still, if you find ways of playing big spells here, this guy gets bigger faster. It's kind of cool. Not a terrible blink target either, with being able to put stun counters on guys, tap guys and put stun counters on it. That's all right. A little costly to make it more of a bounce target though, so you probably do want to just blink it. And I think if we're talking about blink targets, is this better than Mole Drifter? And the answer's no. No, it's not. It's tough. It's tough to break in to the blinky bouncy decks these days because we just have so many good pieces for it. And I don't think this one quite matches up with those other ones. I think I can give this thing a... I'll give it a straight 3. I'll give it a little bit more than that. I'll give it a 3.2. But it's just missing a little something for me. Essence Scatter. Hey, that's a classic card that we've had a lot. I mean, it's not as classic as Remove Soul, but it is the exact same card as Remove Soul. Essence Scatter, 1 and a blue for an instant counter target creature spell. It's already been in Foundations, so this card's already in Standard. I mean, I guess we just have it so it can also be in Limited for this set, but I don't know. It seems kind of silly to me. Art-wise, I think this is some really good art. Yeah, I do like this Dom United one. Oh, I like this Ikoria one too. There's some pretty good arts for Essence Scatter, but I think this is a solid one. It feels very Duskmourn, and maybe that's just the black background, but has a real Duskmourn feel to it. Oh, I didn't give Essence Scatter a score. I mean, this does see play in sideboards sometimes. Not as much as the ones that target instants and sorceries. Like, I think a Negate is, I wouldn't say infinitely better than an Essence Scatter, but I think it does see a whole lot more play than Essence Scatter does. Because on the whole, I would say spells, instants and sorcery spells, probably win more games of Pauper than individual creatures do, or individual spells rather. Probably win more games of Pauper than individual creatures do. So I think in that way you could discount Essence Scatter a little bit, but it's still a pretty darn solid counterspell. I'll give this thing a 6.8, I think. Right between the kid's number and the nice number. Yeah, Essence Scatter. Classic. Hydro Channeler is 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard. You tap to add blue, spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. Another one of these kind of dork guys, but these blue dorks that are a little bit more limited in what they can use that mana for. Still interesting, though. Or you can pay 1 and tap to add a mana of any color, but you spend that mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells. This is probably going to be really good in Limited. As a guy who, as a 1/3, can block lots of different stuff, you can keep it up on your side. You're probably, I mean, you could attack with this guy, but you're probably not attacking with this guy because you want to be able to use the mana when you need it. So the idea that you could block a creature from their side and then tap to get the mana, I like that it's a filter too. Like, this is a set that is all about instants and sorceries, and that's for every single color combination. So this guy being able to say, like, you get a copy or two of this guy in your limited deck, I think you have some pretty good justification to splash multiple colors if you wanted to, and that's cool. That's a really nice little piece. I think this is going to be really good for Limited. Pauper, probably not. I just don't see where it would go. I think you'd need a deck kind of specifically for it, and I don't think we have that in Pauper. Interesting though. Again though, look out for this one in Limited. That'll be a cool Limited card. Potentially even a cool Commander card if you need like the filtering and you're going to do. I was gonna say is it Spellslinger, but you know, Jeskai Spellslinger or something like that, and having like a mana filter, pretty neat. Yeah. Did I give that a score? I don't think I did. I'm gonna give this a. Remember, I'm only scoring this for its Pauper usage, so it's going to be a little lower. But than if I was talking about this card generally, or talking about it for Commander or Limited specifically. But when it comes to Pauper, I think this is like a 2.6, I guess. Interesting though. Landscape Painter is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Merfolk Wizard. It enters prepared. And it comes with Vibrant Idea, which is 4 and a blue for a sorcery that draws you 2 cards. Okay. Just a 2/1 vanilla. But it comes with this the ability that you get to use once. I think it'll I think it'll probably be dealt with most of the time before you get to use the spell, especially when it's at sorcery speed. I think that's you're going to find that you're probably going to get this guy roughed up with 1 toughness especially. So I don't actually like this. I think it's probably ends up being more of a trap than anything. Even consider that if you play this guy on your turn, you have to have 7 mana to be able to play this guy and then get the 2 cards. Is 7 mana for a 2/1 and 2 cards good for you? I don't think it's good for me. Even if you play it over multiple turns, I think it's still pretty underwhelming. I don't really like this at all. I would give this something in like the 1.8 range. It can draw you cards, but yeah, I don't like that card. Muse's Encouragements, 4 and a blue for an instant. Create a 3/3 blue and red elemental creature token with flying, and you surveil 2. Yeah, this is a little too normal for me. I do like the surveil on this. You give it just a little bit more gravy, but 5 mana for an instant speed, flash speed in a way, 3/3 flyer. I guess that can interrupt some people, but that's a lot of mana to hold up. Yeah, I think this is just a little too expensive for what it does. I'll give this thing a 2.3, I guess. Procrastinate. Hey, It's just like me. X and a blue for a sorcery. Tap target creature. Put twice X stun counters on it. All right, so let's talk about this one. You can pay just 1 mana, just the single blue mana, and it taps target creature. And then you put 0 stun counters on it. But 1 mana to tap a guy. Not a great rate, but okay. 2 mana into this, so one into X, and now you tap a guy and you put 2 stun counters on it for 2 mana. That's pretty good. That's okay. And then once you're starting to pay 3 mana or more for this, the value is nuts. Like, if you put 4 mana into this card, so X is 3, you're putting 6 stun counters on a guy. That guy is never waking up. That guy is never going to be able to attack again. I think this card is kind of great. Now, sorcery speed does hamper it quite a bit. And I don't know if there's necessarily a Pauper deck that cares all that much about this. I think you want to have, the stun counter is nice, but the stun counter on Cryogen Relic's nice. But that's like the stun counter is the gravy. And this is the whole card. The whole meal is the stun counter. And I don't think it works as a meal. It works as gravy. It works as a little extra flavor on it, a little topping. But man, I'm really conflicted on this one. I'm gonna end up giving it a 4, I think, just a straight 4, and I'll probably end up buying a copy or 2, probably just for the name alone. But man, I don't know. There's something about it I kind of like. Let's see our next set of cards. It's Quick Study. We've gotten this one. We got it in Wilds of Eldraine and Foundations. We're gonna have this a good long time, but they seem to like it because it is just a divination but better, right? I'm not making that up. Divination is just sorcery speed. I mean, I think Council of the Soritami, but that's just me. Divination's sorcery speed, draw 2 cards. So same, it's just been power crept at that point because same mana cost, instant speed now, draw 2 cards. It's fine. It's a fine card. Will be good in limited, will not be useful in Pauper. It's like a 3. Run Behind is 3 and a blue for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets an attacking creature. Target creature's owner puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library. Okay. It seems like the real problem is that you'd want this to cost 5 and then get reduced by 2 or more, but you want it to be 5 mana because a lot of the set cares about 5 mana spells. So having this be a 4 mana spell that can turn down into a 3 is not as useful, at least from a limited perspective. These time ebb style effects are fine. I generally think they're almost all overcosted. I like that this one is trying to find ways of cheapening them and doing it to an attacking creature, getting the discount when you do it to an attacking creature, I think is a solid compromise here. That being said, I still don't love it. We're in a format here that has a lot of good ETBs, and even though it would be a tempo loss for the opponent, I think a lot of the times they're going to be okay with just putting it on the top of their library, drawing it, and playing it again on their next turn. And then it's a problem again. Now, that is quite a bit of tempo loss, especially if the creature doesn't have flash or haste. But I like this more than a time ebb. I guess I'll say that. I'll give this thing a 2.9. I still don't quite love it. Spellbook Seeker, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 bird wizard with flying, and it enters prepared. It's also got Careful Study for a single blue mana. It's a sorcery. It says draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Is Careful Studies, is that an actual spell? I know we have some actual spells. You got to spell it right first, though. Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I do like that. I wish more of the spells did that and had more of that fun flavor, fun nostalgia of Magic's past. I get why they don't all do. It does limit you quite a bit on the spells that you can use for these prepared spells. But obviously, the big exciting tentpole stuff that we've heard about is the Emeritus cycle that are using really classic alpha spells, swords to plowshares, ancestral recall, lightning bolt, that kind of thing. And that's very cool. But we're not seeing those in Pauper. But this guy you are, and I think that's fun to reference some Pauper. I guess these aren't Pauper playable spells, but it's not like they put lightning bolt on the common guy. They put it on the mythic guy. But I still like, hey, here are some common cards, common spells that also show up on these other common cards. That's neat. 4 mana for a 3/3 flyer, kind of whatever. I mean, it does filter a bunch of cards for you. You do just get a Faithless Looting out of the deal, but in blue, and also came way before Faithless Looting. I don't know. It's fine. I don't think you're going to put the investment of getting to 4 mana. When you have 4 mana, you can play way better cards in Pauper. You can play Archaeomancer. You can play Murmuring Mystic. I think either of those cards is just way better than a Spellbook Seeker. So I give this thing like a 3.4, I guess. I almost said 3.3 and then realized I shouldn't do that. Textbook Tabulator is 2 and a blue, rather, 3 mana altogether. But it's a 0/3 frog wizard with increment. That is the Quandrix ability here, or Quandrix mechanic. Whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana you spent is greater than this creature's power or toughness, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So it's kind of like Evolve, but Evolve for spells, or Evolve for instants and sorceries. Although it does say just spells. No, it is just spells, not instants and sorceries. That's interesting, since this set is so instant and sorcery based. But so it is just kind of like Evolve, but Evolve works on the power of the power or toughness, or maybe just power of the creature that comes into play next. And this is caring about mana costs of those spells. Kind of cool. Also, when this creature enters, you surveil 2. So 3 mana. You're starting out with a 3 mana 0/3 that surveils 2. That's pretty bad. But you also got to consider that the next spell you play, unless it's an Ornithopter, the next spell you play after this guy goes up to a 1/4. And the next spell you play after that, probably, I mean, it has to be a 2-drop at that point, but the next spell you play after that gets us up to a 2/5. That's a real big question about deck building on that end, because this guy's already 3 mana. You're in blue, so you can probably draw some cards and play some spells, but how many spells do you need to play before this guy gets okay? Like, how big does this guy need to get before you're okay spending the 3 mana on him? And how many of those mana value spells are you comfortable playing in your deck? 1-drops and 2-drops, totally fine, but how many of the 3-drops are you playing in your deck? How many 4-drops are you playing in your deck? Probably not a ton. This is a fast format, and so this guy's only going to get so big. I think it's a bit of a trap, and not even a very enticing trap. This is not. I think a lot of people will be able to see this and go, "This is not the card for me." I'm going to give this thing probably better in limited, where you can have a bigger card pool. You have a bigger curve. Matches go on longer, so you play higher mana value spells, thinking that the game's going to go on later. This thing is probably a better tool for that. But outside of limited, I don't think this goes anywhere at all. I'm going to give this thing a 2.1. On to the black cards now. Adventurous Eater, 2 and a black for a 3/2 human warlock. It enters prepared. And Have a Bite. It's a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. You gain 1 life. It's kind of normal. The counter's okay. It can go on any creature as well. So you could turn this thing into a 4/3. 4/3 for 3 is okay, but it's really a 4/3 for 4 when you think about it. And the 1 life, that's not a lot of life. I guess that's useful for Witherbloom is the Golgari, the green-black house. And they want you to gain life all the time. They have lots of gain life payoffs. So just a guy who, or a gal, sorry, who can come in and give you a life when you need it. And it is at sorcery speed, so I guess it's not whenever you need it, but at a certain time when you might need it, you can gain a life pretty easily. And it's not a total waste because you're also putting a counter on a card, a creature. So it's okay, but I don't think it's anything more than a 2. Burog Banemaker is a single black mana for a 1/1 frog warlock with death touch, and you can pay 1 and a black, and this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That is kind of interesting. We've certainly seen lots of 1/1 guys for 1 that also have death touch. We see that in black, and we see that in green. We Fang a Shigeki and stuff like that. But in black, we got one in Edge of Eternities, I'm pretty sure. It might even be an artifact. That was like a ship ripper or something like that. And that was a 1/1 with death touch. But this guy, he's a 1/1 with death touch, but he can also, what's that, like a Frozen Shade? Frozen Shade's 1 mana. I forgot what does it at 2 mana. Yeah, Frozen Shade does it at 1 mana, but I can't remember off the top of my head what card does it at 2 mana. But still, that's a halfway decent ability to use at instant speed. It's got the death touch, so that's cool. You swing in, and your opponent might feel like they need to block this. Well, they feel like they have to block it. But imagine your opponent's at 3. And you have 4 mana open. You swing in with this guy, and your opponent knows, okay, I have to block this guy because you can pump this guy up at instant speed. So if they declare no blocks, you just pump this guy twice and you win. So they got to block it. So they block it with 1 guy. Maybe they even block it with 2 guys, thinking maybe they'll be able to kill your guy. Probably not. They're probably not going to do that, but I do like the idea that if somebody tried to do something like that, you can pump this up enough and be able to assign 1 damage to one guy, 1 damage to the other guy, and kill them both if they do try that. It's a neat little trick. Neat little trick. This is a fine card. This is a fine little guy. I don't know what deck it would go into. It doesn't really go into Black Sacrifice. Those have all sorts of 1 mana guys that make tokens, and those are just better in the mono Black Sacrifice decks. This doesn't go into Dredge. I don't know if this really has a place, but I like the card. I like the art. I like the colors of the art. Although I do like that it's a black card too, because I could totally see this being in green. But I think it's a nice little card. Probably a really fun cube card to just keep. And it's an outlaw, I guess, if that matters to you. It is a warlock. Warlock is part of the outlaw batch, so something to consider. I will give this thing a 3.6. I truly do like him. Cheerful Osteomancer is 3 and a black for a 4/2 orc warlock that enters prepared. And hey, look at that. It's got Raise Dead on it, which is, if you have not ever cast a Raise Dead in your life, that's a classic-ass Magic the Gathering card. It's a single black mana for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It would be really cool if this thing was 2 mana and much worse power and toughness. that you could then bounce. You know, would Orzhov Blade play this card if this was at 2 mana? Still probably no, but the idea that you could cast this guy, cast the Raised Dead, bounce this guy back to your hand, play it again, get the Raised Dead again. That'd be a cool little line. And I think Orzhov Blade is so stuck into artifacts right now that we're playing the Blood Fountains, we're playing the Tithing Blades, we're playing the Grim Baubles. And I think it would be really cool to see an Orzhov Blade. I guess you couldn't call it Orzhov Blade since the blade part would be gone, but play an Orzhov bounce deck that was much more about enchantments instead. And I think a card like this, even though it doesn't deal with enchantments at all, a card like this would be more useful in one of those decks than one where you're playing the Blood Fountain partially to get the creatures back, but mostly so you can get the double artifacts for Refurbished Familiar. Anyway, I like the idea of this card. The cost of the creature to begin with is pricing it out of playability for me. I'm going to give this thing a 2.4. Cost of Brilliance, 2 and a black for a sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Is that just Night's Whisper with a little extra step? Night's Whisper. You draw 2 cards, and so it's a sign in. Sorry, it's a sign in blood. I'm sure. Oh, don't do that. Don't hit the space bar when you do that. I'm sure you guys knew that. But it is a sign in blood. Yeah, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. That's what we're looking for. So wait a minute. Oh no, darn. Oh God, I'm messing everything up. Oh, cool. There is just. I guess I did know that there is a card in Secrets of Strixhaven that just has Sign in Blood on it. Interesting that you have that, but you also have this card that is just a Sign in Blood, also, but with a little bit more. I don't think the +1/+1 counter makes it worth paying an extra mana for it. Yeah. I think that's basically everything I have to say about this. It's fine. I'll give it a 2.5. It still can draw you a couple cards, which is nice. It's hard to give. It's hard to give something that draws you cards a bad score here, but I think you just play Sign in Blood. Last Gasp, 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Okay. It's fine. I don't think this goes into any Pauper decks. We've seen a lot of these stab kind of effects. Stab is -2/-2, but I don't have a whole lot much more to say than this. I just think we have better cards for this. We have Cast Down that kills creatures. You have Go for the Throat that just kills creatures. You have Tithing Blade, which just forces somebody to sacrifice a guy. And I think all those cards are just kind of better cards. This works in some pretty narrow scenarios, like if a creature has indestructible. A lot of those other things don't work, other than the sacrifice one. But what is this stopping? You know, it's not stopping a Tolarian Terror or a Gurmag Angler or any of the big guys. It's not going to stop a Murmuring Mystic. There's the card I'm looking for, because that's a 1/4. Like the things that you really need to kill, most of those have 4 or 5 toughness. So I don't think a -3/-3 does quite enough for it. Although, you know, Lightning Bolt certainly sees plenty of play, and that only does 3 damage. So I guess maybe there are a handful of cases where it's useful. But again, this costs twice as much as Lightning Bolt, so I'm not as into it. I'll give this thing a 2.4. Yeah. Masterful Flourish. Looks cool. I like the art on this one. Single black mana for an instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Why not? Black's been getting some more of these kind of protection spells, and we've seen the ones like Not Dead After All that will bring a creature back from the graveyard if it dies. We've seen stuff give Death Touch and Lifelink. We've seen stuff get Death Touch and Indestructible. But for a single mana at instant speed, you could probably do worse. You could probably do a little bit better, but you could do a whole lot worse. I will give this a 2.6. Melancholic Poet is 1 and a black for a 2/2 elf bard with Reparate. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. That is a pretty darn good grizzly bear right there. A repeatable drain in black. Maybe a weird pull, but take a look at Black Mage's Rod. Black Mage's Rod, this ends up being a 2/1 creature when it's all said and done. That has, when you cast a non-creature spell, this deals 1 damage to each opponent, and it's a wizard. That part doesn't matter as much. But, so this thing deals a damage when you play a non-creature spell. This guy, it does force you to play spells that target creatures, yours or your opponent's. But you gain the life off it, too. I think I'd still play Black Mage's Rod in most cases. But I kind of like this. Just a little bit, but I do kind of like it. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Pull from the grave 2 and a black for a sorcerer. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, and you gain 2 life. So you get 2 raised deads and 2 life for the cost of 3 raised deads. I don't think that's good enough. It is 3 mana to draw 2 cards in a way, because you are putting 2 cards in your hand. But I think we've got just ways of doing that at instant speed. Not necessarily 2 cards, but yeah, I think we just do have better cards than this in Pauper, unfortunately. And Blood Fountain being chief among them. That's kind of the card that we go to. And if you're not as good as a Blood Fountain, it's really tough to find a space. Oh, I didn't give this a score. I feel like everything's getting like a mid-2 at this point, but yeah, it's really not calling out to me. I'm going to give this a 2.7, I guess. No, I don't think it deserves that. I'll give it a 2.5. Send in the Pest. 1 and a black for a sorcery. Each opponent discards a card. You create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, whenever this token attacks, you gain 1 life. Okay. So a discarded card and a 1/1 guy who can occasionally gain you life. It's not terrible. We have plenty of other ways of making people discard cards in Pauper that are more repeatable. Virus Beetle and things like that you can blink or bounce, and you're not doing that with this spell, or with this instant or sorcery rather, but sorcery specifically on this one. But the creature's not bad, though. I do kind of like these new pests that they've made with the life gain, because Witherbloom is doing a whole lot more life gain stuff. We'll see that when we get into some of the actual black and green cards, the multicolored cards. I don't hate it, but it is probably just a little too normal. I think we can give this thing a 3.4, though. Yeah, I think we can give it a 3.4. I don't think I need a copy of it, but it's kind of cool. Kind of interesting to me. Sneering Shade Rider is 4 and a black for a 3/3 vampire warlock with flying. When this creature enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's fine. again, another guy I'd like to blink or bounce, but not well, I guess blink would be fine, but at that mana cost, I am not bouncing this thing. A 3/3 flyer for 5. Yeah, it's a 4-point swing when it comes in because of the drain, but I think most of the time, once you've played it, you just look at the creature and go, now what do you do? And the answer is it doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot. I'll give it a 2. I think this is a 2.7. Next up, Ulna Alley Shopkeeper. 2 and a black for a 2/3 Goblin Warlock with Menace and Infusion. This creature gets +2/+0 as long as you gain life this turn. Now that is the Witherbloom mechanic. So see, they've got a number of life gain payoff guys. Now, I don't like that Infusion only triggers once. You know, as this trigger, so once you gain life, Infusion is just on for the rest of that turn. It's not a prowess kind of thing that can trigger again and again and again in a single turn. And in that case, I don't particularly love it because then it's just a 4/3 menace with a hoop to jump through. And at 3 mana, I think that's pretty lame. I think that's a pretty lame card altogether. In limited, this will probably get in for 4 damage once or twice a game, and that's cool. That'll help you out. That'll get you closer to their 20 life total. But in Pauper, I think this is just a lot too weak. I was gonna say a little too weak, but no, it's a lot too weak. This is a kind of bad card. I'm gonna give this a 2.2. Wonder Off has really good art. It's 3 and a black for an instant. Exile target creature. Okay. 4 mana to just exile a guy. It does feel a little expensive, but also you can't just power creep murder at this point. That'd probably be a bridge too far for Wizards. So it probably has to be what it costs, but an instant speed exile target creature in black is kind of interesting. I don't think it necessarily goes in any deck that I can think of. Maybe this goes in like a sideboard of a Tron deck. You know, just as something that you filter the color with a prophetic prism, and then you can cast this. Like you have the 7 mana Scour from Existence that exiles target permanent, and that's real good. But that also costs 7, so you have to have the full Tron to be able to cast that. This is a bit of a cheaper way of doing it, or being able to play this and another spell, rather than the 7 that you get from Scour. Mm-hmm. It's intriguing to me. It is intriguing, and it's a pretty simple-ass card, right? It's 4 mana, get that guy out of here. Not just in the graveyard, get him all the way gone. I'm going to give this thing a 4.5. Yeah. I like it. On to our red cards, Ancestral Anger. We have seen this one before in Innistrad and Foundation Jumpstart. Yeah, it's relatively known, but I guess it's been out of standard for a little bit, so now it's back in. Ancestral Anger is a single red mana for a sorcery. Target creature gains trample and gets X+0 until end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in your graveyard, and you draw a card. That is, again, it's interesting how you have the houses that have specific things that they care about, but then other colors that aren't really with that house can find more of a use to this. Silver Quill's the one that wants you to be casting spells that target creatures, especially your own. It's really nice when you do that. And this card does that, but it's in red, so you'd have to go into a Mardu pile to make that work. But it also still works in like a Lorehold thing, because it's working better when there are more copies of it in your graveyard, and Lorehold wants to have more stuff in your graveyard. It also is a red card that draws a card, which is nice, semi rare in that color. So having it replace itself like that's not too bad. But, you know, it doesn't really see any Pauper play right now, and it's been in Pauper for a while. So if we're not playing it now, I don't think we're going to play it in a week when this card comes out in Secrets of Strixhaven. So we'll go ahead and give it a 2 point. I'm going to give it a 2.9. These cards that scale off the numbers of other ones in your graveyard can be pretty good sometimes, and I think this is one of them that, you know, gives trample. Yeah, it's a sorcery speed. That is a real bummer, but giving trample and giving a power boost for that trample is solid. And then just drawing the card, all for a single mana, it's a pretty good package. Expressive Fire Dancer is 1 and a red for a 2/2 human sorcerer. With Opus, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, this creature also gains double strike until end of turn. We're making pretty good grizzly bears these days. I don't think this is going to see any play outside of limited, but it could probably be a cool limited card there, where you are seeing, you know, you play one spell that's 5 mana or higher, and now you get a 3/3 double striker. And at that point, you only have to play one 5 mana spell. So the rest, if you have any more mana, you cast, you know, a brainstorm or something, and now this guy becomes a 4/4 double strike, and another one, and it's a 5/5 double strike. Now you're really talking, but you do have to kind of go for it on a single turn. This is not going to be turn over turn value as much, as often rather. So you kind of have to go for it real big, and that gives your opponent a chance to disrupt you that one time you really need it. So, still pretty good grizzly bear. I'll give it a 2.4. Goblin Glasswright is 1 and a red for a 2/2 goblin sorcerer, and it enters prepared. Comes with Craft with Pride, which is a sorcery. Create a treasure token. Craft with Pride is a new card, right? That's not a Craft with Pride. Yeah, just on this guy. It's fine. You know, I don't actually. It's a again, it's a grizzly bear, but you pay another mana, and then you just kind of bank a mana later with the treasure token. It also is putting an artifact on the board, which can be useful. It's okay, but again, it's just a little too normal. Although this is more of a blinky bouncy target, it is cheap enough that you can actually play this guy, bounce him back, and, you know, get multiple treasures off this. But I think you are putting maybe a little too much mana into this one guy when other cards probably do it a little better. Score-wise, I'll give this thing a 2.5, I think. Heated Argument 4 and a red for an instant. Heated Argument deals 6 damage to target creature. You may exile a card from your graveyard. If you do, Heated Argument also deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. 5 mana for 6 damage, but only to a creature. And then exiling a card from your graveyard to do another 2 to the controller. I don't think either one of those is all that good. And even when you put them together, I don't think that's all that good. I think I'm going to give this thing a 6 damage is still a lot of damage, but you are paying a lot of mana for this. Yeah, I'm going to give this a straight 2. I think that's kind of what it deserves. All right, next batch of cards here, 60 or 41 to 60. We're making progress. Rearing Embermare is 4 and a red for a 4/5 horse beast with reach and haste. Reach and haste. Reach is a very interesting ability on a red card like that. Huh. Still, it's just kind of a French vanilla card that's not particularly great. Although how many red reachers do you have that are just mono red? Mono red reachers, probably not a ton. I mean, maybe some archers and things like that can do it, but that's an interesting set of abilities. I will give this a. Also, reach and haste don't really work all that well together because you haste, you're swinging in. This guy doesn't have vigilance, so it means you can't block. I don't particularly like this card that much. I'm going to give it a 2.1. Rubble Rouser is a great name for a magic card. It is 2 and a red for a 1/4 dwarf sorcerer. When this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. You can tap it to exile a card from your graveyard and add a red mana. When you do, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. That's not bad. You know, it's not gonna get you the sneaky snacker, right? You can discard the sneaky snacker and you do draw a card, but you'd have to draw 1 more card that turn because you already drawn 1 at the beginning of your turn. You'd have to draw that 3rd card to be able to get that sneaky snacker back onto the battlefield. I do like this repeatable ability though. Especially when you can do it at instant speed. Especially when this guy's a 1/4 that can block other things. I think you might find some people try to experiment with this. The 3 mana is a little high. But yeah, you might. And the card has to be from your graveyard, which is a bit of a bummer too. But certainly in Limited, this is going to be a good card to trigger those Lorehold when things leave your graveyard abilities. This guy just enables all that and gives you a mana for your trouble and a damage. It's not terrible. I'm going to give this thing a 4.1, I think. I don't particularly see enough value out of it, but I could see somebody else seeing that. So I kind of want to hedge a little bit. Seize the Spoils is a card we have seen before a number of times. It's already been in Standard. Or it already is in Standard, rather. But it's back now with some new art. Seize the Spoils, 2 and a red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you discard a card, and you draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. We have a ton of these. Yes, they are good for Sneaky Snacker, but we've got a bunch of 2 mana versions that we just play instead. The treasure token is fine, but you'd rather just not pay the extra cost, the extra investment to start with, and you'd rather just pay this at 2. And we have plenty of those cards. So I don't think the Seize the Spoils continues to go anywhere. I'll give it like a 3.4. Strife Scholar, 2 and a red for a 3/2 orc sorcerer with ward, pay 2 life. And this creature enters prepared. And it has Awaken the Ages for 5 and a red. It's a sorcery that says create 2 red, or 2/2 red and white spirit creature tokens. They don't fly. That's a bummer. If I'm paying 6 mana for 4/4 of power, I would like it to at least fly, especially if they're spirits. I mean, I guess the spirits are these horses here, but they should fly. They should fly. Yeah, I don't particularly like this. It's already not an amazing cost. The ward is weird. Who's going to target this guy? Who cares? I guess you give this guy wards so you have enough time to be able to cast this thing. Maybe you discourage somebody from killing it a turn or 2, and then you get to your 6 mana and can cast it. But I think you can do way better with the cards in your deck and the mana in your deck. So let's go with I'm actually going to give this a really bad score. I'm going to give this a 1.8. I think it's really trappy in that way. Tackle Artist is 3 and a red for a 4/3 orc sorcerer with trample, and it's also got Opus, which is the Prismari ability. I think we've talked about the Prismari ability before, but this is the Prismari one. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast this spell, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead. I'd want this to start out smaller. And cheaper. If this was a 2 mana 1/2 or something, or 2 mana 2/1, then I'd be a little bit more inclined. But it does have trample already, so it's a 4/3 with trample, and it just keeps getting bigger turn after turn when you play your instants of sorceries. That's okay, but I think at that point in the match, 4 mana for a guy who's got to just sit on the table for a whole turn. I don't know. You can cast Writhing Chrysalis with that amount of mana, and I think Writhing Chrysalis just dog walks this thing. I'll give this thing a 3.1. Tome Blast is 1 and a red for a sorcery. Tome Blast deals 2 damage to any target, and it's got flashback for 4 and a red. Yeah, I mean, it is technically card advantage. You can use this twice, but you're paying 7 mana for 7 mana, like 2 for one and 5 for the other. 2 installments to get to 7 mana, and you're doing 4 damage altogether. It's pretty bad. I mean, yeah, you can split it up across 2 different creatures or face and a creature. I'm like, okay, but it's still 7 mana. I don't like it. Yeah, you can mill it into your yard, and then you still get the value of having a card that works in your yard. Nah, not for me, especially not at sorcery speed. Let's go ahead and give this thing a 2.9. Unstable Mockery is 2 and a red for an instant. Unstable Mockery deals 4 damage to target creature, and you surveil one. I guess this is okay red removal in limited, but it doesn't go any further than that. This is a pretty weak card in Pauper, honestly. I'll give this thing a 2.2. Zealous Lorecasters, 5 and a red for a 4/4 giant sorcerer. When this creature enters, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. We got a what's it called? Ardent Elementalist, right? That's what the guy is. But that one costs 3 and a red for Ardent Elementalist, and it does the same thing. It's not a 4/4, but it is the same thing. This costs so much. I mean, in limited, this will probably be pretty nice. Get back one of your good spells in the late game, so it is some card advantage there. You get a 4/4 body on it still, so it's an impactful guy that's going to be able to attack or block. Yeah, it'll be nice in limited, but outside of limited, this card just costs too much. I'll give it a 2.2. On to our green, Barag Barrage. Great name as well. It's 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If you've cast another instant or sorcery spell this turn, then it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. Okay, so we've got a bite effect. But what happens again? If you've cast another instant or sorcery spell, you get 1 extra power before the bite. If this is the first instant or sorcery spell you cast, you just get a bite. I guess it is just a better rapid bite. It's just it's just an instant speed bite effect. And I suppose if you've done anything else, it gets a little gravy to it. So, it's not like it's a big hoop to jump through. And even if you don't jump through the hoop, you still basically get a magic card that exists right now. I mean, this isn't... I suppose this is better than Ram Through in some instances. But Ram Through, if your creature has trample, matters and deals extra damage. But yeah, we might end up playing this in the cases where we played Ram Through. I could see people experimenting with this and probably having a good amount of success with it. It does give you a little extra. I'm going to say reach here, but reach does not mean hits flyers. I mean, it does hit flyers, but reach as in, hey, my guy's a 3/4 and their guy has 4 toughness. Well, I've jumped through the hoop and now I've got a 4/4, so the 4 can damage them, can bite affect them and be effective. Okay, yeah, sure. I'll give it a 5.2. Efflorescence, yeah. 2 and a green for an instant. Put 2/1/+1 counters on target creature. Also has infusion. If you gain life this turn, that creature also gains trample and indestructible until end of turn. Gaining life's not hard. Not in Pauper. Campfire is a way to gain life at instant speed, turn over turn. So that's something. Soul Warden is still in Pauper. Soul Warden or the Lunarch Veteran. Those are ways of continuing to gain life each and every turn, more or less. Yeah, you don't... In Strixhaven here, this is like a Witherbloom ability, so you're green black. But in Pauper, I think you could make a Selesnya thing like this work. Essence Warden as well, which is just a Soul Warden but in green. So there are ways of making that work. 3 mana, put 2+1/+1 counters on a guy is not all that amazing. And even if you're giving it trample and indestructible until end of turn, I don't know. It's okay, but I think you're putting a lot of effort and timing into this, where you probably could just play better cards in the first place and get a better deal than that. So let's give this thing a 3.3. Yeah. Follow the Lumerets is 1 and a green for a sorcery with infusion. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them, put it into your hand. If you gain life this turn, you may instead reveal 2 creature and or land cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's fine. You know, is it gonna replace Winding Way or Lead the Stampede? Absolutely not. And I guess it's closer to Winding Way than it is to Lead the Stampede. But yeah, we just have better cards in this, and we will play those better cards. I will give this a 2. Glorious Decay looks great. Love this art. 1 and a green for an instant. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact. Or Glorious Decay deals 4 damage to target creature with flying. Or exile target card from a graveyard and you draw a card. Okay. You know, not quite a naturalize effect because this can't hit enchantments. But that might work in its favor. You know, we've seen... what's the Tarkir Dragonstorm one called? But whichever one it's called, like it has the first ability here and the third ability, but it has the destroy an enchantment instead of the second ability. So maybe if the meta goes that way, or you know you're going to deal with a lot of guys with flying, if the meta is in that position, yeah, it's not terrible. This thing kills Glinthawks and kills Core Skyfishers, kills fairies pretty easily. Can even kill some dragons. Like I don't hate it. I don't hate it. You know, artifacts certainly get played a lot more than enchantments. Enchantments have their place. You know, Bogle's decks and mono white heroic, but artifacts are just so much more prevalent that maybe you do play this instead. I don't know. I'd be willing to give it a shot. I'll give this thing a 5.2. I think that's what we gave the bite spell as well, but that's kind of where I put it. I don't know if I need to buy copies of that, though. Hungry Graphalon is 3 and a green for a 3/4 giraffe with reach and increment. So the plain spells that are mana cost higher than its power and toughness gets +1/+1 counter. Too normal. It's really sad. Like when Morrow on his Tumblr posted that giraffe is going to be a creature type that's in the set. I had some more high hopes for a giraffe than this. This is, you know, we shouldn't waste funky creature types on French vanilla cards. And that's what this is. My sadness puts this at a 1, but my more objective brain will bump this up to a 2.3, I guess. Still, very disappointing. Mindful Biomancer, 1 and a green for a 2/2 Dryad Druid. When this creature enters, you gain 1 life, and you can pay 2 and a green to have this creature get +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate only once each turn. Again, we're finding better Grizzly Bears all the time. The 1 life is really weak. This is... I think it needs to be 2 to be anything, really. But it does gain you a life, so Witherbloom cares about that. This other ability here is fine, I guess. 3 mana to turn your 2/2 into a 4/4, and you only get to do that once a turn. So you can't even do infinite combo-y stuff with it. I mean, that's why they don't want you to do infinite combo-y stuff with it, but I don't know. Who cares? I think that's okay in Pauper. I'll give this thing a 2.3. 4, I guess. Noxious Newt, great name, 1 and a green for a 1/2 salamander with death touch, and it taps for a green. Okay. What's the poison tree frog? Poison tree frog. Is that not what it's called? Tree frog. Poison frog. Poison dart frog, that's what it is. That makes a mana of any color. It's a 1/1 instead of a 1/2, and you got to pay to give it the death touch. And it comes with a reach. This guy doesn't have the reach, but he has the death touch. Yeah, I guess in some sense it's better. In some sense it's worse. We're a format with Land of War Elves. I don't think you're going to see this get any play, especially because Salamander's just not a creature type that's relevant. This is better than the giraffe, that's for sure. Hey, you at least put something more fun on this salamander than you did the giraffe. Let's go with a 2.8. It is still a mana dork, and that's okay. And the death touch is nice, but you're just gonna play better cards in Pauper. Oracle's Restoration, single green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. You draw a card and gain 1 life. That's a decent amount of stuff for a single mana. Replaces itself, gain a life, so the Witherbloom stuff works. The +1/+1, just a tiny power toughness boost. You're just getting lots of little things. It's almost like an anti-pox. That's kind of cool. I don't think this does anything in Pauper. I think you can give this thing like a 2 point. Yeah, I don't think it does anything in Pauper. I'll give us a 2.3. No, it's better than a 2.3. I'll give it a 2.6. It does stuff, and it replaces itself. You can't forget that. It's kind of like it is kind of just like cycling, but at sorcery speed. Shopkeeper's Bane is 2 and a green for a 4/2 Badger Pest with Trample, and whenever this creature attacks, you gain 2 life. So it's just a better pest token. I think it's really easy to deal with. It's 4/2 for 3 mana and Trample. It's not the worst thing, but I think you just want a card that does a little bit more. And gaining 2 life on an attack is not that much more. I'll go for a 3. Studious First Year is a single green mana for a 1/1 bear wizard that enters prepared, and it has rampant growth. Classic. 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Okay. This is worthy of discussion. So Pauper is a format with Sakura Tribe Elder, Steve, if you're familiar. And great card. We see it in Commander all the time. We've seen it be played in Standard, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it got played in Standard in Champions of Kamigawa. And that card is a 1/1 that costs 1 and a green, and you sack it to go do a rampant growth. So this card, in some ways, is worse, because you are paying 3 mana in that instance, because you got to pay the 1 green to get this on the board, and then the 2 mana to do the rampant growth, but you get a body on turn 1 with this, and you get to keep the body once you do the rampant growth. And, of course, you can do the blink or bounce thing and then keep doing the rampant growth. It's not bad. Rampant growth is a spell that can be played in Pauper. Sakura Tribe Elder is a spell that can be played in Pauper. And sometimes Sakura sees play. I don't think I've seen factual rampant growth be played for any decks that I've seen. But I don't mind this. I think people are going to experiment with this one. Just as a 1-drop that gives you that extra value, this is, in 1 card, you have your turn 1 play and your turn 2 play done. And then you're ready to have 4 mana on turn 3. I think people will play this card. I think they will. I'm going to buy 4 copies because I'll probably even more than 4. It's pretty good. This will be played in Commander a bunch. This thing will be played a lot of places. Now, it's good that it's common. It'll be pretty cheap, especially early. Don't pay attention to this $189. That is pre-order prices. Don't pay those. But this thing will be like a 50-cent card, and I think you'll be happy buying a bunch of copies of it. Cool card. Tenured Concoctor is 4 and a green for a 4/5 troll druid with vigilance. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. And it has infusion. If this creature gets +2/+0 as long as you gained life this turn. Huh. If this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you can draw a card. Okay. So that's almost assuredly just going to be a kill spell when that happens. But although it could be, outlaw medic, the thing is that it has to die. So if somebody exiles an outlaw medic, you don't get the card. This you'd get the card regardless because it's the spell being cast. And I suppose it stops your opponent from using lightning bolt on this guy or using 2 lightning bolts on this guy to kill it because then you draw 2 cards. I guess that does discourage it a little bit. Although I don't think your opponent's going to spend 2 lightning bolts to kill this guy, even if it didn't have that first line of text. 4/5 Vigilance is pretty solid body. Even at 5 mana, I think that's a pretty solid body. And then also the life gain thing. If you find another card that gains you some life, this guy's now a 6/5 till the end of turn, still with Vigilance. And you could gain life on your opponent's turn at instant speed and use that as a kind of combat trick. That's also interesting. And you could do both because it has Vigilance. It's an interesting card. I think it'll be really good in limited. I don't think it'll end up seeing Pauper play, but I think this should be a really good limited card. I would look out for it in limited. Let's go with a 2.9, I think. Yeah, I'll bump it up all the way to a 3. Wild Hypothesis is X and a green for a sorcery. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, and you surveil 2. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's no Nyxborn Hydra, right? But there's also the what is it? Is there like a Outlaws of Thunder Junction guy, the Tumbleweeds? What is that? What is that card? Is that just the number of lands you have, or is it actually an X spell? That is just the number of lands you control. So I don't know the card I'm thinking of. That's just another green. The mana you put into X is the +1/+1 counters you get. But this is fine. It'd be really nice if this was instant speed. That'd be really cool. But you understand why it's not. It's stupid thing that I'm just thinking of here. I don't know why this came to my brain. Is how Guardian of the Guild Pact is so good in Caw Gates or any Gates deck really, and it says protection from monocolored. This is a multicolored creature. You got that green and blue fractal creature token, so this thing can block that. Something to consider, I suppose. Not a particularly good card though. I think you can go with a 2.3 on this one. Maybe with the Surveil, I'll bump it up to a 2.4. All right, we're getting close. This is actually our first multicolored card, so we're making progress here. Imperious Ink Mage is 1 and Orzhov mana, which is white or black. I guess I should say Silver Quill mana since we're here. When in Rome. 1 white and a black for a 3/3 Orc Warlock with Vigilance, and when this creature enters, you surveil 2. That is very normal. Very normal. Okay, you're not going to put this in a Pauper deck for sure. I'll give it a 2.1 there, but probably a pretty solid limited card. Another Silver Quill card for white and a black. You get Inkling Mascot, which is a 2/2 Inkling Cat with Reparate. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, this creature gains flying until end of turn, and you surveil 1. It's an interesting way of getting a good amount of surveil triggers. That probably does end up adding up a decent amount, but without a power and toughness boost, that part doesn't really stack, so you just kind of get a 2/2 flyer. It's just a grizzly bear that sometimes has wings. I don't think that's all that amazing. I'll give this thing a 2.5, I think. And the 0.5 is really for the surveils. Like that is a way of getting a lot of surveils. Render Speechless is 2, a white and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. And you put 2 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature. They try to slam cards together sometimes, and sometimes they work. Sometimes you get Lightning Helix, and you go, whoa, that card's rad. And sometimes they're like, I don't know, what if you put a Duress and I guess it's better than a Duress, isn't it? Yeah. A Pilfer. Yeah. What if we put a Pilfer and something that puts a couple +1/+1 counters on a guy? And you go, I don't know. It's not all that great. I don't think this is all that great. I'll give it a... I'll just give it a 2. That was all of our... We only got 3 multicolor Silver Quill cards. Interesting. Elemental Mascot is 1, a blue and a red for a 1/4 elemental bird with flying and vigilance, and it has Opus. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next turn. It's interesting, but it's... If you pay 5 mana... How much mana do you have to cast the next spell? And sure, you get another turn to do it, so that's okay. And it's a flyer that kind of has a bit of prowess in a way. It's just power boost, but it already starts as a 1/4. That's okay too. I think this is just okay. It's certainly better than the Inkling creature we saw, and it could potentially give you a decent amount of card advantage turn over turn over turn, but I'd go with something like a 3.3 on this one. Maybe that's even a little too high. Stadium Tidal Mage is 2 and a blue and a red for a 4/4 Djinn sorcerer. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. It's probably quite a bit of card selection over the course of a game, and a 4/4 means this guy's going to stay on the board probably a decent amount. Why is he holding this tube of toothpaste? I don't know. I think being relatively vanilla, like this guy, I guess it's just like big dude. 4/4, you're going to hope that nobody has creatures that can block that guy, but block him favorably anyway. But I don't know. Pauper, we do have cards that can do that. The Tolarian Terror comes out pretty quick these days. And then what's this guy do? Not really anything. Visionary... Oh, I didn't give a score. 2.6, I guess. Maybe a 2.7. I think I'd stick with 2.6. Visionary's Dance is 5, a blue and a red for a sorcery. Create 2 3/3 blue and red elemental creature tokens with flying. And you can pay 2 and discard this card, or you can pay 2 and discard this card to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Huh. So you get like a sleight of hand variant, but... That's kind of cool. It's just like a channel ability on this. I do like modal-ish spells here in this way. Here's like a big 6 mana splashy spell. And if you are early in the game and you know you're not going to get to that 6 mana anytime soon, well, here's a little card advantage for you. A little card selection rather. A little card selection for you. I don't mind that. I just don't think the big 7 mana spell is really all that good. 3/3 flyers. It's fine. Although, if the card was just this, if it was just a colorless spell that said, pay 2, discard this card, look at the top 2 cards of your library, one into your hand, the other in your graveyard, and let's say it said, this spell can't be countered, because this is an ability. So, it is kind of can't be countered in a way. I think there's like one... Yeah, there's like one way to do a... what's the spell I'm thinking of? The one that stops I wanted to say squelch, but that's definitely not it. It's the thing that stops abilities from triggering. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about, and I'll remember it someday and yell it in my sleep. But that is a stifle. A stifle spell. And I think it like comes on a crab body or something like that. So we don't even have like a classic stifle effect in Pauper. From a spell. So this is kind of just an uncounterable cycle for 2, but gets some card selection. And in that way, I think if it just didn't say the rest of this card, I'd probably end up liking it. I'd probably have good things to say about it. Oh, it could go in any deck. And this card could too. It just also has this other mode on it. I'm rethinking my whole thought process on this card because of that. That's fascinating. I will give this a 4.6. Yeah, that's wild. I looked at this card and like, this card's going to be garbage. And then I turned all the way around on it. Interesting. Okay, let's talk about Bogwater Lumeret, which is a black and a green for a 2/2 spirit frog. Whenever this creature or another creature you control enters, you gain a life. That's, again, we're making better grizzly bears all the time. And this one's pretty good. You know, it's a Lunarch veteran. It's not a Soul Warden, but it's doing its job. I think that's an okay card. You probably do just have better options. You know, Essence Warden is just a better card than this, and it costs just as green mana. So, but if you need more than just Essence Warden, maybe. I'll give this thing a 3.8, I guess. Grapple with Death is 1 a black and a green for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact or creature, you gain 1 life. It's not particularly good. I mean, it's a putrefy, but it's at sorcery speed, and you trade the instant speed for sorcery speed, and all you get out of it's a 1 life. Nah, I don't particularly like that at all. It is still a versatile removal spell, though, so I think we can give this like a 2.9, but I wouldn't really play it. Pest Mascot, here we go, guys. It's 1 a black and a green for a 2/3 Pest Ape with Trample. And whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. I had a video a little while ago about cards that I think could show up in the Pauper format or should be downshifted to show up in the Pauper format. And the very first one I talked about was a Johnny's Pridemate. Now, Johnny's Pridemate is 1 and a white, and you basically get the same effect. It doesn't have Trample, but it's 1 and a white, so it's a lot easier to cast. This one not being in white is probably the reason that they thought it was good enough or bad enough, appropriate enough for the Pauper format. Because if this card even splashed white, if it was green white or if it was black white, I think you'd find potentially find a life gain deck getting some traction. This way, I think you kind of have to go 3 color. You have to throw in Abzan, and at that point, I don't think it's that good. You might see some people try. I might even try to make this work in just green black, or just black with a little bit of a green splash, or just green with a little bit of a black splash, and just see Just see if you can make this work. But man, I still just want a Johnny's Pride Mate. Just give me a Johnny's Pride Mate in Pauper. I really do not think it would break the format that much. But I do like this guy. Only 3 mana, which is still higher than 2, but it's only 3 mana. He starts with Trample, and then he keeps gaining life time and time again. I think you'll see people play this card. I'm going to play this card. I'm going to try it out anyway and experiment with it. But Pest Mascot. 4 copies of that, please. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I will give this thing a... I'm going to give this a 5.9. I really do think this is going to be Pauper playable. We'll have to see, but I think this could be Pauper playable. Pursue the Past is red and a white. We are officially at Lorehold time now. For a sorcery, you gain 2 life. You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. Okay. And it's got flashback for 2, a red and a white. Sorry, more work's getting done. Okay. You know, this... Is there a Boros Sneaky Snacker deck that is possible with this? Or a Jeskai Sneaky Snacker? Do you put Sneaky Snacker in Jeskai because you have access to this now? The 2 life's fine. And then you still get the discard and the draw 2. And the flashback's not bad either. Be able to do this again. You might see some people experiment with this. Sneaky Snacker is just so good. And to get another 2 mana spell like this, even if it is harder to cast because of the colors, the flashback's really good. You know, we've had Laughing Mad was from Final Fantasy, and that was just mono red, but it was 3 mana to cast in the first place, and then I think it might have been like 4 or 5 mana to cast with flashback, but it does the same thing, but the beginning cost is too much. It costs 2 and a red instead of just 2 mana. So this might have a chance. This might have a chance. In the same way as the Pest mascot, I think I'm going to give this a kind of hedging halfway decent score, and we'll see where this ends up. But the card advantage and the Sneaky Snacker synergy is hard to ignore, even if the colors aren't perfect for the kind of deck that might normally want to play that. Let's go with a... I'm going to go with a 5.5 on that one. Spirit Mascot is red and a white for a 2/2 Spirit Ox. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. You know, I wanted into Johnny's Pride Mate, and this is probably as close as they might give us. You know, it's not the gain life trigger, but it is cards leaving your graveyard trigger. And you can make that happen. Now, it is 1 or more, so you have to find ways of doing this individually, time over time over time. And this guy doesn't come with any evasion, so you potentially just get a big guy for naught. But, you know, is there something you can do to make that happen? Dredge is the deck that I'm first thinking of, and these are not the Dredge colors. And red is a little bit the Dredge color, but... I don't know how many Dredge cards you'd really be able to play in this, because I just don't think the color of the fixing works in your favor. But it's interesting. I think this guy could potentially get up to some real big power and toughness, could take on Tolarian Terrors pretty easily. There's lots of considerations with it. I think you'll see people also try to play with this and see if they can find some success. I think I'm going to go for a 5.4 on this one. Also, pretty good card. We're getting some kind of heaters here in the back. Wilt in the Heat is 2, a red and a white for an instant. The spell costs 2 less to cast if 1 or more cards left your graveyard this turn. Wilt in the Heat deals 5 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, you exile it instead. Okay. I think it's easy enough to get stuff out of your graveyard to make this only cost 1 and a red, or sorry, not 1 and a red and a white, and 2 mana for 5 damage that potentially exiles. 5 damage, like we said, is that kind of magic number when it comes to Tolarian Terrors or Cryptic Serpents or Gurmag Anglers. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Even like a Writhing Chrysalis, if you don't have multiples or you don't have more Scions out there to sacrifice, because it only gives you the 2, so you get up to 5. Instant speed too. You crack a Relic of Progenitus, exile both graveyards, so cards left your graveyard this turn. You get to do that for free, right? Or do you have to pay 1 for that? I think you have to pay 1 for that. I can't remember. I guess we can look it up. Yeah, you got to pay 1 for the Relic. Yeah, you pay 1, but you don't have to tap it to do it. That's what yeah. Okay. That's not bad. That is not bad. I think it might just be a little bit too much of a hoop to jump through, but I think you'll find people try. I think you'll find people will try to jump that hoop. I'm going to go with a 5.2. Embrace the Paradox. We're on to Quandrix now. I think this is our last house. I think it might be. Embrace the Paradox is 3 and green and blue for an instant. To draw 3 cards, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. We've seen plenty of these kind of cards before. This one, the mana cost is a little higher, but you draw more cards. It's fine. I don't think this is going to see any real play, but it's fine. We'll go ahead and give this something like a 3.8, I think. No, that's a little high. 3.6. Fractal Mascot for a green and a blue for a 6/6 Fractal Elk with trample. And when this creature enters, tap target creature and opponent controls, and we put a stun counter on it. 6 mana for a 6/6 trampler that also has an enters trigger. It's probably not all that bad. It's just a lot of investment up front to play. And I don't know if that's investment I really want to invest in. I would be willing to go as high as like a 3.9 on this one. That seems too high too, but I'm going to stick with it. Terra Fractal is a fantastic name. X green blue for a 1/0 dinosaur fractal. It's with flying. And this creature enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. When this creature enters, you gain 2 life. So you pay 3 for a 2/1 flyer. You pay 4 for a 3/2 flyer. And so on and so forth. I just don't think you're getting a very good deal most of the time. You know, you have to pay 2 different colors of pips here. You start with 1 power. I guess this also is you could pay 0 for X and just play this guy out as a sorcery spell that then sacrifices itself, and you gain 2 life because it'll die to state-based actions because it has 0 toughness. But the enter trigger still goes on the stack, so it is just a 2 mana gain 2, which also is not very good, but something to consider. You also, your opponent could blink this and then it just dies. I guess it gains you more life when it comes into the battlefield, but it also just dies because then nothing else was spent on it, so it becomes a 1/0 again. I don't know, but the name's so cool, but the card's so I'm gonna go for a 2.3, I think. On to the artifacts. We are so close. Biblioplex Tome Keeper is 4 mana for a 3/4 artifact creature construct. When this creature enters, you choose up to 1. Target creature becomes prepared. Ooh. Only creatures with prepared spells can become prepared. I guess that makes sense. Or target creature becomes unprepared. Well, in Pauper, I do not think that there are enough cards with prepare spells that are playable here. Well, we talked about 2. The white one that's kind of like a Thraben Inspector, and the bear that casts rapid growth. I don't think anything else really made it. Yeah, the elite interceptor and the Studious first year. At least not in my list. So yeah, I don't think the unprepared part really matters that much. And again, by the same token, I don't think the prepared part matters that much. Is reloading, because you're paying 4 mana for this thing to come on the table. And sure, it's a 3/4, but you're paying 4 mana to get your rampant growth back up, or your rally, whatever it was for the interceptor. I just don't think you're doing that. This is probably a lot better in limited when you have some of the big rare or mythic bombs that need to be prepared, and this guy can do that, or turn off the preparedness of some of your opponent's big splashy spells. But in Pauper, this is kind of nothing. I think I'm going to give it like a 1.5 because it just really isn't that useful. Maybe if they made a ton more prepared spells, but they're not going to do that anytime soon. So this card is pretty irrelevant for Pauper. Mage Tower Referee is 2 mana for an artifact creature construct. That's a 2/1. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It's not on a Johnny's Pride Mate. It's kind of trying to be, but it's not. Especially because this card itself is colorless, so it's not. If you have 4 copies of this in your deck, those copies are not going to trigger on these creatures themselves. So you're kind of basically everything else needs to be multicolored in your deck to like really make this worth it. Maybe, I don't know. I don't particularly like this. I'll give it a 2.4 maybe. All right, let's talk about this guy. Page Loose Leaf is 2 mana for a 0/2 legendary artifact creature construct. Let's see. We've got the 2 guys from like, what is it? Ice Age or Homelands or something, Joven, and I forgot the other guy. Those are common legends. We've got the Goblin with Grandeur in Modern Horizons 3, and now we have this guy, and then all the Universes Beyond ones, but of which there are many. But interestingly, this is only our 4th, I believe, our 4th common legend in universe guy. Let's see what he does. He taps to add a colorless. Okay, got a mana dork here, and he also has Grandeur, so a little bit like our Goblin friend. Discard another card named Page Loose Leaf. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an instant or sorcery card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is pretty good. This is pretty darn good. And I'll tell you why. 1, it's a 2 mana dork. It's a 0/2, so it can block maybe a little bit of stuff, but also 2 mana dork. Pretty good. But what's really interesting here is the Grandeur ability. This is instant speed. That's really good. Yeah, you need at least 2 copies of this guy, and one of them has to be on the battlefield. But when you do that, it's not exactly tutoring, but you can build your deck in a way that this is tutoring. What if you only have 1 instant or sorcery in your deck? You're like a Bogle's deck that's just playing enchantments, but you do have 1 very useful instant or sorcery, or 4 copies of it rather, and you play Page, and he just goes and finds it for you at the time that you need it at instant speed. Are you going to find combo decks that will use this? Probably you will. there's a lot of cool play here, and I think this is the spot where like a common legend belongs. You see stuff like Leonardo Big Brother, and you go, that's one feels pretty darn strong for Pauper, and two also just like he's fucking Leonardo, right? Like he's like that's a big famous character. Why is he common? But this is a book. It's like a not even a book. He's a page. He's just part of a book. Like that kind of screams common to me, even if it's a named guy. So I'm more okay from a flavor standpoint, from a power standpoint, and yet I still think this is pretty powerful and interesting enough, usable in very specific ways that this is pretty cool. Like this will also be really cool and limited if you can get 2 copies of this guy, and he's common, so there's a pretty good chance you can grab 2 copies of this guy in your sealed, or maybe even more copies in draft if you're able to grab that. But I think you might be able to do some really cool stuff with this guy in limited, in commander. Just let's think if somebody plays a whole deck that is just lands and creatures and artifacts and enchantments and maybe even battles or planeswalkers or something, but they only have that one big sorcery, or they've got one big instant, one big sorcery, or a couple giant haymaker sorceries. Now, sorry, what am I saying? In Commander, this doesn't work because he's got Grander, so you can't have multiple copies, and you also wouldn't want him to be your commander because then. Yeah, okay, never mind. There are ways. You could make like a token copy of this guy and then bounce the card, back to your hand, and then you could use it, but that is pretty convoluted. Never mind. Don't worry about Commander. Standard, I guess, could do this too. I make a standard deck that only has the one instant or sorcery in it, but it's the big thing that changes the whole game, and you just use it when you're ready for it. Now, it just puts it in your hand. It doesn't cast it for you, so it's... there's still some balance to it, but that's even if you're playing this in a way where it is pretty random, like I play a lot of instants and sorceries, it still just gets you one for not free, kind of free, but it just goes and grabs you one, and that could save you. That's pretty good. I think this card is great. I'm really interested to see what people do with it. Like what decks are gonna want to try this, but I think I know decks are gonna want to try this, and we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna grab myself 4 copies. Page Loose Leaf. Score wise, let's go ahead and give this guy a 6.2, 6.3. In fact, I'm pretty impressed with this guy. This is where I go like, oh yes, legendary creatures in Pauper. I can deal with that. Also, you got to note, legendary creature so it doesn't go down to cast down, artifact creature so it doesn't go down to go for the throat. How do you kill this guy? I think a lightning bolt's the answer, but the black spells. Are we gonna have to start playing Doomblade again to just take out Page? Maybe. We'll see. Potioner's Trove is 3 mana for an artifact. You can tap it to add a mana of any color, or you can tap to gain 2 life. Activate only if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. Boo. Let it just be a campfire. Like a 3 mana campfire, I don't think that would be bad at all. And having to choose between the campfire ability or the mana dork ability or the mana rock ability, I think that's a fine trade-off. I don't think you have to force somebody to play an instant or sorcery spell to do that. But I don't know. I guess in their testing they felt that they did. I don't know. I think it kind of kills it, honestly. If it didn't have this text and just had these 2, I think we could have a pretty good conversation about it. But as is, I think this ends up being something like a 2.8, and we just kind of move on and never think about it again. Rancorous Archaic is 5 mana for a 2/2 avatar with trample and reach, and it has converge. This creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So you can make this up to a 7/7 trample or reach. 7/7 trample reach for 5 mana. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But you have to obviously be in some pretty specific colors or have some specific setups, prophetic prisms, or you do have the surveil, not surveil lands, but you have the desert that conduit pylons and hidden grotto, and those can filter. There's lots of filtery lands, lots of dual lands. Like maybe it is possible to play this guy and get a lot of colors in there. Get 4 colors pretty consistent, like 3 or 4 colors pretty consistently. And now you have a 5/5 trample reach or a 6/6 trample reach, and okay, yeah, that's pretty good. But it's not amazing. It's just pretty good. I think we can give this like a 3.5. That's probably too high, but I'll stick with my 3.5. All right, last handful. Well, I guess we are just kind of done, aren't we? Well, no. There's going to be dual lands, right? So we've got our basics here. We skip the basics. We know basics are good. And then we have our duels. Forum of Amity is a land, and it enters tapped, and it taps for black or white or black. And you can pay 2, a white and a black. We're so close. Just let me finish. 2, a white and a black, and tap to surveil 1. That's okay. Like there's some other lands. There's like the Avatar lands that are semi-recent, and those have you pay this amount and then sacrifice the land and draw a card. This time you at least get to keep the land. I don't think that's too bad. That's a lot of mana. I don't think this is gonna outclass most of the duels that we are. I think it'll outclass most of the duels that we have, but the ones that we actually use in Pauper, I don't think this like goes above the OTJ ping lands or even really the gain lands. You might find some control decks who just keep up their mana and maybe they can use a surveil 1 each turn when you don't cast anything. Maybe you'll see that more in like a Dimir pile or even like a Izzet pile or a Prismari pile. But yeah, and so we just have all of these. What am I going to give these score-wise? I do really like the colors on this Field of Strife. I think you can give these guys like I'm going to give it 5.9. It is a dual land, so you kind of got to give it some respect already. But I think this is an okay ability to slap onto a dual land. And then Terramorphic Expanse, which has been in a ton of sets. It's a fine card. Gets like a 6.1 maybe. And that is it. That is all of the Secrets of Strixhaven. But I guess we do need to very quickly go down the cards that we already have in Pauper, but have gotten new special guest or mystical archive prints. We're not going to rate these because these are not new cards really. They aren't even really new cards for the set. But they are cards you might see if you have one of these decks that has some of these cards in it. Maybe you want to think about getting getting these new copies and playing them in your decks if you like blinging out your Pauper decks. So who knows? This Archaeomancer I think looks rad. That's really cool. Am I going to pay $20 for it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it does look nice. This Deduce looks pretty good. I don't think that'll be all that expensive because this is a special guest. This is a mystical archive. So the mystical archive comes 1 to a pack. The special guests are much rarer, but we'll see. But yeah, I kind of like that Deduce. Deduce is a good card. Draw a card and investigate. Solid. And you got a Japanese Deduce, which looks really good. Does look really sick. But I don't particularly like cards that, for me to play anyway, or even to be played against me. I know the art's cool. I'm a weeb too. I like it, but play cards with English on it so we can read them, unless it's like a card we all know back and forth. And Deduce, I guess, is one of those cards, but I don't know. And then there's an even more special version of it. I think that's going to be the case for all these. So these should go pretty quick. Disdainful Stroke. It's a good card. Good card. Shows up in some blue sideboards in a number of decks. But yeah, it's, I kind of dig the art on that one too. And we got a Japanese Disdainful Stroke and a special Japanese Disdainful Stroke. Marine Mystic. Okay, that's a very popular card. This is all personal taste at this point. I don't particularly love this art compared to the other one, but it is, shinier for sure. It's probably going to be another $20 card, at least pre-order prices. Maybe it'll go down, but we'll see. Preordain, classic of a lot of blue decks. Mono Blue Terror plays Preordain. Sometimes people have been taking it out for other things instead, like a Consider maybe. But Preordain, pretty classic card. It's not a bad looking one. And then, we got a Japanese one that does it's not exactly the Great Wave, but it's certainly evoking kind of the Great Wave here. And then a shiny one too. Yeah, I'm sure somebody's gonna pay some real money to get 4 copies of those in their Pauper deck. Sleight of Hand, one of my favorite cards of all time. Not really all that playable in Pauper. We just have so many other cards that you'd probably play instead. But I got to tell you, this looks nice. I do like it, but come on, man. If we're doing Sleight of Hand, you got to get your 7th edition one. That's the one. That's the one. I like the Phil Folio art too, but 7th edition, that's the lady. Although I do like this version too. I kind of do. Is that actually a secret lair? Yeah. I actually have, because it's only $1. I have 4 copies of this. No, I did not buy 4 of those secret lairs. I just bought 4 individual ones, but that's a pretty nice looking sleight of hand too. And then Japanese ones, yep, same there. Spell Pierce, classic card we see in lots of decks. I kind of like my Kamigawa Neon Dynasty ones, but I get it. Oh, Mermaid Lady, Spell Pierce, so that's going to be popular. Culling the Week. We just talked about this card on our most expensive Pauper cards ever list, with some caveats. There's, we didn't include the Portal 3 Kingdoms cards or things like that, but Culling the Week, it's a card that needs reprints. Look at these prices, and you know what? This is now the cheapest version, and this is pre-order prices, so this price might even go down. But the cheapest one before was this Mystery Booster 2. And the white border Mystery Booster 2. But now you have this pretty cool looking one, and it's a little bit cheaper, and might even get cheaper after that. This one will not get cheaper. This is already $25, and I bet this thing will end up probably going up a little higher at some point, and the shiny one's going to be crazy, but... Feed the Swarm, pretty decent removal option. Not amazing in Pauper, but certainly played in Commander. You'll see this played in Commander all the time. Black doesn't have a ton of enchantment destruction, so this is one of the ones it has access to. So you'll see it in Commander. Cool, nice to see. There's cheaper versions out there, but I like the art on that one. Kind of dig it. And I do like the Japanese looking one too. That's pretty slick. A Braid, there you go. You get your I think people just kind of play Suplex instead because of the Exile artifact. And that's at sorcery speed, so I guess there are reasons you'd play a Braid over it, but yeah, cool looking A Braid. Japanese A Braid, I do like the art style on that one specifically though. That's cool. Big Score, sure. Big Score, that shows up in the red Storm decks. Yep, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool one for Big Score. And okay, sure, yeah. Burst Lightning. Then Burst Lightning doesn't see play in Pauper. I think it could, but man, it's really tough to get another. It's really tough for a shock effect to make it in a format that has Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. We have too many good cards, but I really like the look of this Burst Lightning. That's a cool looking card there. And this Dalsum looking dude over here, monk style, that's okay. Pyretic Ritual, here's another one that was on our most expensive Pauper cards of all time, with caveats. But yeah, this one, it's not cheaper. Like 12 bucks, and this one's sitting right now at 31. But of course, that is again before pre-order prices. Don't take these. I doubt most of those prices will hold at all. Some of them will probably go up, but most of them will generally go down. And you get these Tanuki. Those are Tanukis, right? Yeah, they're definitely Tanukis. Tanuki Pyretic Ritual, that'll be expensive, I'm sure. Crop Rotation, there you go. Something for the Tron decks, especially the green Tron decks, playing Crop Rotation to get your Tron lands out. This is I like the art style on this one too. Pretty good. And the Japanese one, of course, is going to be very popular. Giant Growth. This is incredible art. Incredible art for this card. I don't know how many Giant Growths do you really need, but man, you know what? It's cool Giant Growth, and Japanese Giant Growth as well. Pick Your Poison. Pick Your Poison has shown its face in some sideboards and some green decks, both in Standard, but I think also in Pauper as well. It's a nice way of getting some. I like these sacrifice effects. Like these are pretty good sacrifice effects. You can kind of pick the one that really hurts your opponent the most when they need it. Yeah, I think Pick Your Poison's all right. And I'm not 100% sure what's going. Oh, I see. It's people sitting down in front of a pond. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's okay. And Library of Lang. kind of wild that this thing's a common, but it counts. Special guest, so again, ridiculous amounts here. You can get a much cheaper copy. The 4th edition here is the cheapest one, and the revised edition here is the cheapest one, and it's looks good. I like it, but this one's templated a little better, a little easier to read, I'm sure. But Library of Lang, that's a card. I don't see Library of Lang in Pauper really all that much, but I wonder if you could do stuff with the discard 1, draw 2 stuff. I guess you don't really care all that much because you're discarding the Sneaky Snacker, so you want that in the graveyard. But I don't know, with your Faithless Looting maybe, in a way of getting cards that get discarded into the bin, make sure they have a way to get back home. We'll see. That's it though. Those are all the cards, Mystical Archives and Special Guests and the cards from the actual set. That is the whole bit of them. And I think we've seen a handful of cool things. I think on the whole, I certainly like the flavor of this and the setting of this better than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I think Turtles had more impactful cards. But I am excited to see how stuff like Studious First Year or Pest Mascot or Page. I'm really excited to see what people do with Page, and that is coming from a guy who for the last couple months has been bitching about legendary creatures in Pauper, and like why is that happening? Why I don't like this? I don't like my Shredders. I don't like my Leonardos. I don't like Spider-Man. I don't like why are you putting these legends in a common? And now I see like a really cool common legend that isn't just a common legend because we've got to find ways of sneaking the Universes Beyond guys into more packs. Like this is like a natural way of this is like a good use of the legendary and of the grander ability. I think that's all good stuff. In the same way that I didn't mind that Goblin, even if he wasn't that good from Modern Horizons 3. But those don't bother me. I think there's still something that bothers me a little bit about Spider-Man and Miles Morales that show up in Pauper. Like, come on, what are you doing? Anyway, this is to make a long video even longer. Thanks for joining me on this one. Very excited to see how people react to this, being whether it's through pre-release or whether it's what people are doing in Pauper. Let me know if there are any cards that you were excited that I skipped over. Any ideas that maybe I didn't even cover some of the ideas that you immediately saw. Maybe you have a handful of Pauper decks that I don't have, and we're like, oh no, that goes perfectly in Grixis Affinity, whatever. I'm just trying to think of a deck I don't have, and or don't know all that much about, which I'm sure there are many. But yeah, if you've got ideas, let me know. Throw them down in the comments. And until next time, oh God, what's next? Marvel? Yeah, next is Marvel. Okay. Well, we'll see you for Marvel, I guess. See ya.